Hello everyone! Today I'm going to show you the first iterations of my Chesemobiles, which are tanks that have great speed, great climbing, and great combat. I went through many iterations of this to reach the product I'm at now, so I wanted to present this to you in a couple different videos to be more digestible. So with that, let's start out with the basics of how to even make an electric vehicle in the first place. So EV stands for electric vehicle. There are a couple ways to do this. One is stake nudging, one is item culling, which requires you to be before patch 1.2, and then the third way is with gravity nudging, which is a way that's viable in all patches. If you want to learn how to do these, check out the links in the description. There are great tutorials on all of these techniques. Once you've done that, you can connect two of these axles together with something conducting, and it will drive the two motors, which add their torques to the torques of the large wheels. And on flat and downhill ground, you can start to travel very fast, so you can see how quickly my vehicle is traveling here. One of the downsides of a regular electric vehicle like this is that it takes a while to speed up. You can see here that it's taking me quite a bit on level ground to get up to full speed, and along with that, they're not good at climbing. You can use your speed to get up a hill, but once you're up there, the motors start to spin opposite direction, and you can't climb up very well anymore. So we'll go up this regular hill using a road, and we'll see that we can't make it up very far, and we start to go backwards. So some pros are that this is fast, it's light, it's easy to put together, but the cons is it can't climb and it has low acceleration. So how can we fix this? Well, one way is by introducing a brake system with a spring. Here I'm trying to use the spring frame as a brake, seeing if it will rub against the motor once I've compressed the spring, but it doesn't really slow down the vehicle very much, and it just bounces around. It's not very good. So we need to try and attach things to the spring, so that when the spring is collapsed, it will press against the motor, but when it is open, it will let the motor spin freely and you can travel quickly. So here I'm trying to use a rail to brake both of the motors at the same time. We see that we can get some good speed when the rail is up, and then if I push the rail down, it kind of slows the motors down, but not very well. You want the motors completely stopped when the brake is active. So here I'm going to use a hydrant and a fan to try and brake the motors. You see the hydrants on the front and the fans on the back, and this is working really well. So you see how when the spring is collapsed and everything is pressed together, those motors aren't really spinning. And now when we engage the spring, then those motors are allowed to spin freely, and we can get some good speed. But the real test will be, can it climb? So let's activate the brake so the motors can't spin, and we see that yes, it can climb really well. So pros of this two brake method are good climbing and good speed, and the cons are that it's switch activated and you have a couple wasted parts like that fan in the back. But with this we can make a melee car. So I've added an electric motor on the front that will only activate when the spring is collapsed, so then it starts spinning, like you saw there. The brake is not very good on downhill though. You see there how I overshot all those enemies? I wasn't able to stop in time. But we'll turn around, we'll go back and we'll attack them. My sword is not quite low enough, so I can't hit that bokoblin, but I'll be able to hit the moblin when it comes close. Right here. One shot. I've got a nice sword on there. This one has a con in that it uses a bunch of extra energy though, because you have that fan on the back and you have the frost emitter and the hydrant on the front that all use energy. So that is one con of using these energy using parts as brakes. But the pros are that it's compact and it has that combat mode, which is great. Another con is that, as you saw earlier, the braking is only okay. So some alternatives to braking are what I thought about next. My first thought was, I know large wheels have really good torque and really good traction, so what if I put a suspended large wheel in the back that normally doesn't do anything, but when I activate the spring, it will hit the ground and will slow down the vehicle. So like right here, I've activated it, it's touching the ground, I'm going only large wheel speed. But this wasn't very good at climbing, and it wasn't very fast when the wheel was suspended, because wheels are heavy. So my next thought was, what if I use a large wheel directly on the motor, like this? And this is a very promising result. Like this almost has great climbing, and it's just these 3 wheels. It also can go in reverse, which is great. And this is basically just using the friction of the large wheel on the motor body. It's catching those notches, those teeth on the exterior of the motor, and that provides really good grip. So let's bring it over to the hill and see how it does at climbing. Here we can see its top speed. It's pretty good. Okay. You know, this is honestly pretty good. A lot of vehicles I've tried to take up this hill don't make it that far. So, very promising result. Little clunky, but I'm planning on using 4 wheels on the ground and not just these 2. This was just a proof of concept. Here I'm trying to use a small wheel to see how it compares to the large wheel driving the motor, and it doesn't have as good traction. Comparable speed, but I think that's just because the small wheel actually wasn't inhibiting anything. So next, I used 4 wheels with 2 axles on the ground, and I used 1 large wheel to try and drive both the motors. And it was working pretty well, although it's kind of slow going uphill. Although it does climb, which is good. It also looks pretty cool. And if we adapt that, we can add some propellers on the back to improve the climbing even more. And these propellers have a speed limit of 10 meters per second, but that means that you will have basically a constant, pretty fast speed of 10 meters per second on the ground and really good acceleration. But you can't go in reverse because that propeller has such a strong forward force. So that was me trying to reverse. But let's try going up a hill now. I have a motor on the front that's not doing anything right now because that was intended to be like the combat spinner like I showed earlier. But this is just a proof of concept, so it's just there for weight. I want to make sure I can carry all this weight up a hill. And we see that it's chugging along. It can make it up pretty steep slopes like this. And if we go downhill, it'll have pretty good speed going downhill, although that speed is maxed out at 10 meters per second by this propeller. But it's got pretty good controlling. One of the downsides here is that it's pretty top heavy, but I like the design. I think it looks pretty cool. Some of the pros are that this uses less parts than the braking system, and it also has really great acceleration. But some of the cons are that it's top heavy and it has a low max speed. That's going to do it for today's video, everyone. Next time, I'm going to adapt this further and use 2 large wheels, 1 on each motor. Thanks for watching.